CareerTalk. My name is Wong, and today I'm here with Andrew, who's a landscape architect and works with JPR. Andrew, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. So as a landscape architect, could you tell me a little bit more about what you do and what a day-to-day looks like?
Sure, so we're responsible to design sites for maybe it's a city or a business or a baseball stadium, but we plan out where the building might go, where people park, how people enter the site and experience it.
So when you say sites, do you mean like construction sites or when the stadium is completely finished, or is that kind of a both?
It's a little bit of both, but the main goal is when it's completely finished. What does it look like? How does it feel? Where does everything go? Both, in relationships with each other and up and down. How does everything interact and work together?
How did you find out about landscape architecture, and what kind of led you down that career path?
Sure. So when I was, growing up in school, I was always interested in how things come together in design and building. And so I was interested in architecture and engineering, but I also had a love for kind of the outdoors. And so a teacher actually suggested I should look at landscape architecture. And so I did, and that's what led me down that path.
A lot of Legos as a kid, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Forts in the backyard.
Yeah. So what type of training or degree do you have?
I have a Bachelor in Landscape Architecture. It's a 5-year degree from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana.
Okay. And then did you do job training or internships as well?
Yes, I did both. I job shadowed to kind of make sure it was what I wanted to do and made sense. And then while I was in school, I did 2 internships.
How long have you been a landscape architect?
I've been a landscape architect for a little over 10 years.
Okay, and have you been with JPR the whole time?
Yes.
So what are you doing on the day-to-day?
Yeah, so we fully design the site, we engineer it, and then we work with a contractor to build it. We're constantly checking in on the progression of construction as maybe different issues come up on site, things we didn't think about that are underground. We're always working with that contractor to solve those issues, and it might be modifying the design or just giving further direction. And of course, there's always things that you just didn't quite think about during the design process that now we need to think about and fully design and nail down. So it's kind of a continuous process from the start of the concept all the way through construction completion.
So for kids interested in looking into landscape architecture, how would you suggest they kind of dive into that?
I would certainly recommend looking at maybe some firms in your area that have landscape architecture and seeing if you could job shadow an individual for a day or two and talk with them about what a day looks like and see if that's something they're interested in. And then look at maybe a different college or university in their area that might offer that program and find out what that track is to apply, get the degree, and then get into the profession.
Okay. Is this your first stadium project, or have you done?
No, we've done a few stadium projects across the nation. It's kind of one of our niches. We do kind of everything across the board, but stadiums is something that we really enjoy.
Okay. So for kids who are looking into landscape architecture, how would you suggest they get into it?
I would recommend that they find a firm in their area that offers landscape architecture and see if they could job shadow an individual for a day or two and talk with them about what the job entails and see if they're interested. And then look for a college or university in your area that offers landscape architecture and go visit it and find out what it takes to apply and go through that track of becoming a landscape architect.
Okay. Were you able to job shadow when you were looking into it?
Yes, I did a couple different job shadows just to make sure that it made sense for me, and it really helped.
Is this your first stadium project, or have you done many others in the past?
We've done quite a few stadium projects. It's one of the areas that we have a niche in across the nation.
Okay. What other types of projects do you work on?
Our firm really does projects kind of across the board. We do a lot of different projects for municipalities, whether that's a city building or a commercial business, whether that's a restaurant or an apartment complex. So we kind of run the full gamut of project types.
Okay. What would you say has been your favorite project so far you've worked on?
This has definitely been one of the best. I mean, they all kind of have their challenges and pros and cons, but this has been quite the project for us and a lot of fun.
Has COVID had any impact on how you are able to go about doing your job?
It certainly has. When COVID hit, we went remote, and everyone kind of evacuated the office, and we had to figure out a way to continue to meet deadlines and make sure that we produce fully well-designed projects without all being in the same building together. And so we had to get more familiar with the technology that we could utilize and our resources to continue to communicate and collaborate and make sure that we were still producing that same great project and product at the end of the day.
Okay, so is this a job you're able to work on from home?
Yes, there are certainly some things that you have to do in person, such as what we're doing today, visiting that job site and seeing things in a physical form. But a lot of it you can do from home. You can design and do drawings and coordinate details from home.
So you said you've been a landscape architect for 10 years. What advice would you have now that you'd give to your past self when you're just starting out?
I would tell myself or a young landscape architect to dive in, have an open mind. You're always going to be learning, even 10 or 15 years down the road. Ask a lot of questions and do every different project type that you can to learn more.
So what are some of the things you can see on the site today?
Well, at this point, they have installed most of the underground utilities, and so we are checking out those underground utilities before everything's covered back up, and you can't see much of that. So that includes, the storm lines, the sanitary lines, the underground electrical runs, and you can also see that they are now forming up a lot of the outfield walls and the group area walls. So just making sure those are in the right locations and the right height. And if they're running into any issues as they lay those out, how can we solve those issues? So just getting out here on site to take a look at things before everything's kind of covered up and you can't get access to it.
So it sounds like you're kind of like inspecting, right?
Yeah, to some extent we are inspecting to make sure things are matching our plans and specifications, and then also giving more guidance wherever needed so they can continue to construct.
With that, if you see something that you don't like, is that something that they'll have to change immediately, or is that something that you'll have to work around in future plans?
It can go both ways. There are times where it just has to be done the way the original design and plans were drawn up. And there are other times when the way they put it in might actually be a better solution to what we had designed. And so we go with that, or we find a workaround. Rather than having to pull something out and redo it and spend more time and money, we always try to look for a solution to work with what we have. So it just depends on what that issue is.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Of course. In learning more about landscape architecture, feel free to check out JPR or CareerTalk. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys are curious dang it. You said you've been a landscape architect. Man, I'm really struggling with that word. Should we redo that? Because